Hey, what's up, everybody? John Robinson here, Tuesday Talks. We are live, and I hope that you are having a great Tuesday. It's Tuesday. What is today? Tuesday, November, I believe it's November 11th. Goodness gracious. How am I doing? Let's see. Yeah, it's the 11th. Yeah, okay, good. I wasn't that far off. November 11th, and we always have a good time when we do this, and I hope that you do. I enjoy being here with you guys. I see Andy's already on here. Thank you, Andy, for always being here and always letting me know that you can hear me, see me okay. If you guys have any trouble hearing me or seeing me, then maybe drop a note in the comments so I can adjust. Sometimes, in fact, I better just go ahead and switch over real quickly and just hit live on Instagram to make sure we're actually live on Instagram. Cool. We do this from StreamYard. By the way, if you guys ever need a referral or you're ever thinking about starting your own podcast, I'd love to have you guys. Feel free to use my referral. You get a discount, and then I get something. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually worth it or not, but take a screenshot of that, or you can ask for it. I'll drop it in the comments. But the cool thing is StreamYard makes it fairly simple for me to just kind of click on all the different places I want it to go to, and then it sends it out to everywhere. The problem is a lot of times there's like these little things like Instagram says, "Hey, you can't go live until you hit this button." So even though I think I'm live, if I didn't go in and do it on the Instagram side, then it doesn't actually go live. So anyway, hey, cool. There's Kevin. Kevin's here. Cool, Kevin. I will catch up with you shortly. Kevin's been trying to get a hold of me for the last couple of days, so I had a great time. Just kind of a side note, totally not connected to what I was thinking about talking today, but maybe it'll be something we talk about. But I just got back from Walla Walla, Washington, which some of you are like, Walla what? So it's not wall to wall, it's Walla Walla. And Walla Walla, Washington, I have some friends up there. I was invited to come up, and as most of you guys know, I am pastor, preacher, and still get invited to come out and preach and speak at different churches, be a part of different meetings. And even though I'm not in full time pastoral roles right now, anyway, I got to go up and do that. And in Walla Walla, spoke at two different churches up there. But what was really cool is looking at that community. And again, kind of, can't help myself looking at it from the point of view of real estate investing and what's going on there in the area. So very, very good place to flip because there is a demand for housing, and people will pay a premium for housing in that area. So a lot of money in that area. I think it's definitely a space that would be very good to set up some kind of long-term senior living type of stuff. I'm giving you guys all the nuggets here. But what was really cool about it is it's just a small town. It feels really, really small. It feels super laid back. A really cool little downtown scene. A lot of old brick buildings. Just you could walk around. It was a really cool space. So if you guys are ever looking for a place to go and you're in the Portland, Seattle, Boise area, I would highly recommend maybe just taking a trip out to Walla Walla and enjoy yourself. I think you'll really enjoy it. And if you're looking for a church to go to, I've got two that I could recommend. So here's Tuesday Talks, and we're actually just kind of wanting to do a couple of things today. At least I want to. I want to answer questions, and it's been a long time since I actually had somebody post some questions that we could actually answer live. So I would love to hear or to see you guys' questions in the link. So drop it in the comments. Andy says Walla Walla onions. That's right. So interestingly enough, Andy, they're moving more toward a wine community. So which I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't chew. I do hang out with some that do, but the point is, like, I'm not really big into the whole wine scene. I know a lot of people are, but they're Walla Walla is actually getting away from onions, and not getting away from it. I shouldn't speak on what they're doing, but I know that the agriculture has shifted to where it's much more of a wine, type of a vineyard type of a crops and orchards that are not orchards, but farms that are being converted to vineyards as opposed to the onions. But it was funny. We were driving home yesterday morning, afternoon, and you see those big trucks hauling agriculture and all kinds of stuff down the road. And you could see one of them was pretty full, and they'd gone around a corner because there was a whole spill of huge, huge onions on the side of the road. So I didn't stop, but I thought about it. Okay, so yeah, Walla Walla onions. That's what that area is known for. Really, just really cool, beautiful. If you're coming from Portland, I think what you do is you cut across probably from Hermiston up into Walla Walla. If you're coming out from Idaho, then I got to Pendleton, and then I cut north, kind of backtracked northeast a little bit. Little town out there on the Oregon side. It was kind of cool. I was observing, telling my wife I wouldn't mind owning a piece of property out here, even owning a farm out there. So if you guys are in the business and you know of somebody that might be selling, I would love to pick up a farm on owner financing anywhere in the Walla Walla area, and or even on this side of the Oregon side of the border, which is a little town called what was it, Milton Freewater. So Milton Freewater, Oregon, just on the Oregon side of the border. So free onions, that's right, free shopping. Hey guys, if you have a question, go ahead and post it in the comments, because I want to try to take advantage of the fact that we get together like this and we actually have some time to spend. I know that most of you, if you're on this call, you're probably interested in real estate, or else you wouldn't be here. You might be working on a deal right now. You might be thinking about how you can get into real estate. I don't know what you're up against, but I'd love for you to post your question in the comments. And if I don't see some questions come in, then I might start reading some questions from some of the folks that I have had reach out to me. I'm looking for a question. In fact, this just came in. Andy, I see that you've texted me a couple of times. We've been busy this weekend. Let's see here. Andy's got somebody that has a property, maybe multifamily properties in Kalama, Washington. Okay, that's interesting. Reading through that a little bit. We got somebody who is a power of attorney. Andy says, got in touch with an estate attorney, 20 to 30 years. How should we go about these? Andy, maybe you can give me a little more clarity on what you mean by that. What going about an estate attorney, meaning how do you cultivate the relationship, or are you having specific? I would say this: I've worked with several estate attorneys, several elder law attorneys that. The main thing that they want to know is that you are not a fraud, or that you're not some kind of a scam artist, or a fly-by-night outfit. Once you actually have an established relationship with somebody who is in that business and has been doing it for a while, look, see, he says they do 20, 30 states a year. Yeah, so it would really just be a matter of, I would say, my personal experience has been that it's always best, even if I have to pay for an hour of their time, I like to buy them a coffee and actually meet somewhere, or bring in a coffee by their office. But typically I like to get them out of the office, away from the distractions, away from the phone, and just say, hey, I'm even willing to pay you for a little bit of your time, but I want to tell you what it is that I do and why I think it would be advantageous for us to work together. So that's one of the things that I would recommend, Andy, is that you try to meet in person if possible, and then just explain, hey, first of all, in your case, Andy, I'm a construction guy. I've got, a good track record. I've got an established business here in the area, but I also work with seniors in the senior space. I work with transitioning out of their personal homes, and, I'm assuming that you probably have those types of clients, those types of situations. I would love to be a go-to resource, whether it's providing bids for work that needs to be done in the house to get it market ready. I can provide full price offers. Full price being, full price is a subjective term, but again, not lowball. And you kind of want to just go through and talk about the fact that you have a network, that you have these capabilities and these resources, right? Because everybody needs resources. You think sometimes we think an attorney, they're like, oh, they've got it all figured out. No, they have to network. They have to find reliable people that they know, like, and trust to be able to work with, to be able to recommend people to. So it's the same. It's really kind of the same thing that you and I have, is we all have our business, we have our niche, we have the thing that we're good at, but we understand that we need to collaborate and have a bigger, broader bandwidth for doing more business, increasing revenue. So it's helpful for us to kind of get to know people in these other spaces that kind of touch on what we're doing. So if they're doing 20, 30 estates a year, I would be shocked if they don't already have some of those resources in play. But Andy, it certainly wouldn't hurt you to show that you're serious by again, asking for an hour of their time. 30 minutes might be more appropriate, or even saying, "Hey, I'd be willing to pay you for an hour of your time. I just if you're serious about actually hearing what I have to say and finding out what kind of resources I can offer." I don't know the nature of how you got in touch with them, so that would probably be a good place to start. Okay, let's see. Maribel says, looking to do a DSCR loan. Would you wait until the DEC Fed meeting or go for the interest rates now available? I would personally go for what's available now, and here's what I would do. I would start the process now. Remember, you can always cancel at any point. If you see a significant rate drop or some kind of indication that it's going to, then you can always cancel or even kind of go backtrack and start over again. Here's the issue with that is a lot of times the mortgage lenders will actually lower their rates in anticipation of a Fed rate drop. And so you actually end up having rates right now might already be in anticipation of that drop that is coming potentially. And so if you need it, the answer is probably more like this, Maribel. It's probably more like, I don't know how immediate you need to get this funding. If it's something that's like, hey, we're burning through cash because we don't have tenants in here, or we need to get the money back to pay off a hard money loan, whatever. It's kind of situational dependent. So if you look at it and say, hey, I can afford to sit on this property for another 4 to 5 months, wait to see what happens with the market. It's possible the rates could come down in that time, but you might look and say, okay, well, how much money am I actually going to save over the course of, a year at a 0.5% lower interest rate versus how much money am I going to save right now by getting this other loan wiped out and getting this refinance going and getting this thing cash flowing again. So I hope that makes sense, but I would personally say start the process now. And by the way, if you guys aren't aware of it, you could always go into the PDX REI group or any one of the different Facebook communities that we have, and you could post in there, hey, I'm looking for your best DSCR loan lender. And by best, I mean this. They respond to text and email and phone call quickly. They actually have options for the different rates and the different types of loan products. And they are not going to, gouge me on the fees, right? Because there are obviously these brokers have these fees they build in. So sometimes you get a good rate, but you really overpay with the lender fees, origination fees. So you want to understand the fee process, the fee structure, and then the timeline, and then make sure you're working with somebody that communicates well. So I know Chris Burdick is in our group. He's a great resource. Jamie Bates, she's not really active in our group. I don't even know if she's in the PDX REI group, but she has a really great DSCR loan product. Be happy to get you her information. But I would definitely go in there and ask around a little bit, get some feedback from the people that are actually working with these different lenders, and make sure you're working with somebody that you actually feel comfortable with because other people have worked with them. All right, Kevin Smith. By the way, guys, these are great. Keep these questions coming. Feel free to jump in, ask another question. You go to the top of the line. If you ask a question, we'll get right to it. Let's see. Kevin Smith says, what do you think of Trump's 50-year mortgage idea? Good idea, bad idea. I'm personally not a fan, as most people will pay many times the value of the home before payoff and other reasons. Okay, so here's what I like. Okay, well, let me go back. Here's what I don't like. I don't like this because of the same reasons you just mentioned, Kevin. Having said that, I mean, you think about 50-year mortgage, 50 years. I mean, I'm not even 50 years old yet. I think about a mortgage that I was paying on, started paying when I was born, and it still has 5 more years left before it's paid off. Obviously, if you're paying, if you're looking at fractional lending and the way that the whole thing works with, there's a particular term, but it's the kind of interest, fractional interest. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm drawing a total blank right now, but it's not simple interest it's compound interest. That's what I was looking for. Think about compound interest on a 50-year loan. That is a massive, massive amount of interest that you're paying on over the lifetime of that loan. Okay. Now, having said that, I don't know of a lot of people that really buy a property with the intent of keeping it for 50 years, which is actually really, really good for the banks because they're just regenerating these loans, these notes. And remember, a lot of that interest you pay is on the front end, right? So a lot of these loans, the principal is hardly getting touched at all in the first 10 years. And so you've got these loans that are being generated out there over and over and over again. People are very transient these days. They don't stay in one place for a long time. They buy a house, 3 years later, they're selling it. 5 years later, they're selling it. Very few people actually live in the same house for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So if you look at it from that point of view, most people, I mean, we could say the same exact thing. I'm sure people did when it comes to like the 30-year mortgage loan rates, right? 30 years is a long time. Okay. That means I would have had to start it when I was 15 years old, paying on a mortgage, and I got finished with it this year. So I don't know that this is really that significant of a difference. I honestly, to be full disclosure, I haven't looked into all the details of this. I know there's a lot of people that are up in arms about it right now. Partly because of the fact that some people, it doesn't matter what Trump or anyone else does, they're going to find something wrong with it simply because that's not their political persuasion. Very similar, by the way, to how people on the right reacted to anything that, Biden or Obama did, right? So, fair's fair, right? We understand that people have their guy, they have their side. People are very polarized these days, and there's not really ever any room to look and see what the other side is doing. May actually have some merit or credit to it. And to that point, I'll say this. I like the fact that he's trying to do something. I would much rather my kids who are in their early 20s, 3 of our kids are in their early 20s. I'd much rather our kids have some options that might make sense for them to be able to get into a loan that has a low enough monthly payment. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we know we're going to pay, $1.5 million for this $350,000 loan if we keep it for the next 50 years. But at least we can be in a place where we're putting money towards some kind of ownership position. Okay. So one thing that my wife and I are committed to doing with our kids is helping them get into their first house. It's what our parents did for us and my siblings. And so I'm definitely wanting to pass that along to our kids. Having said that, man, things are a lot different. The first house that we got into, that we moved into, that we owned ourselves, my wife and I, was 20. We started building it in 2001. And it was in a little town, a little podunk, nobody town, way, way out past the edge of town, past real civilized life. Didn't have a stop sign or a stoplight or anything. It was just a drive-through on the back highway, excuse me. And that was a little town called Star, Idaho. Well, Star today is booming. There's a ton of development. It's kind of a trendy place. A lot of Californians move into that area, and it's just packed. There's just development. There's houses everywhere. When we built our first house there, we were all in. I mean, like all in, everything, turnkey. We were into that house. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, travertine countertops, travertine floors, 3 to 4 different custom paints. We did a lot of work ourselves, but we were all in, including the city lot, the hookups, the permits, everything. We were into that thing for $150, I think it was like $118,000. So if you can imagine buying the lot, building the house, walk away with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and we sold that place for $150,000 about 2 years later. And we rolled that equity into another one, built it, I think, for about $200,000. This was in Alaska. Got a loan on that, lived in it for a couple of years. That was kind of the play back then, right? Live in it for 2 years, 3 years, sell it, roll the equity forward so you can avoid the capital gains, put all that money that you make in equity into your next deal. And we did that for 4 houses. And then we got caught in the 2008 downturn cycle and lost all that equity that we've been building up. It all went away. Plus, we ended up having to do a short sale, a negative equity situation. Really, really tough lesson to learn about real estate. But the point is, $115,000, $118,000, I think, all in 24 years ago. Yeah, good luck finding that, right? those scenarios don't happen. So here we are trying to help our kids, but the basic price point, entry price point to get into something that's anywhere close to it, a 40-minute drive of work where they all work is going to be in the 300,000 minimum. 350, 400 is probably like more in the range. And so you're looking at going, gosh, how in the world are they going to afford these monthly payments, especially when the interest rates are so high? And so that goes back to, okay, a 50-year loan, not really ideal, but does it give these kids a chance to qualify and to get into a house and a monthly payment that they can afford, or it's at least comparable with what they're paying for rent right now in an apartment complex with 400 other people? Yeah, I'm okay with that, right? Now they can sell it at any point. They don't have to live in the whole thing and for 50 years. And hopefully when they sell it, because of the cycle of real estate, their property will be worth more than they paid for it. And somebody else can go out and generate a 50-year loan or a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan. Like, in other words, just because we have 50-year loans doesn't necessarily really change, in my opinion, the dynamic of the market in any real negative way. It just gives certain people that can't afford the 30-year, 20-year rates and payments an option to actually get into home ownership. So I don't know if I could say I'm a fan of it, but I'm definitely not opposed to it. And I don't like the idea of paying interest on anything for 50 years. Okay, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know that it's something that I'm really against. I might caution our kids to say, hey, instead of paying an extra 20 years of interest and signing up to that, you might want to look at just seeing if you can afford a couple extra $100 a month to pay the 30-year note. But for that matter, well, then well, then how about do the 15-year loan, right? So there's different ways to look at all those things. For sure, one thing is, even if you get a 50-year loan, the for sure thing is you should be looking to refinance it or to pay that thing down in big chunks of money as quickly as possible. And that's there's ways to do that, right? You can double up on your mortgage, even pay a little extra towards your principal, and that can really, really whittle down that interest pretty quickly. So, relatively speaking, quickly. All right, I'm looking at any more notes, any more questions. We got some people on here today. If you guys are here for the first time, we'd love to have you jump in and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you a wholesaler, flipper, realtor, lender, private money? What is it that you do? Why are you here? And then if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in and ask your questions in the comments. Andy says an investor mindset doing the 2-year live and sell, so 50 years won't matter. Exactly. So, I just say it does matter because there's very, very little chance you're going to pay much down on that 50-year mortgage in the first 2 years. That is one thing I believe, because the way this compound interest works, you're going to see that whereas on a 30-year note, you would start really like taking bites, decent sized bites out of that overall principal once you're about 10, 12 years into that 30-year note. I think it's going to take much, much longer before you really start eliminating or dropping that principal balance down on a 50-year note. You're probably going to be looking at 20 years paying it before you really start making a significant impact to the principal balance on that 50-year note. So I do know that it does matter, and it definitely may not be the best thing to sign up for, 50 years of debt, right? I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. 50 years of debt. Having said that, that's how most Americans live, right? 50 years of debt, 60 years of debt. Americans, we are comfortable living in debt. It's the land of the free, and well, hold on a minute, maybe not so free, because the borrower is servant to the lender, is how the proverb goes. So are you really free if you are in debt? Good questions, right? Someone asked me this recently. How do you qualify debt? What exactly is debt? And I thought it was a great question, because it's one thing to talk about debt and just as a, all debt is bad. It's another thing to talk about such a thing as good debt. Now, again, probably not the best terminology. Good debt, is there such a thing? I would say that all debt is bad in the sense that you don't want to be indebted to someone, okay? But having said that, there's certain debt that is worse than other kind of debt, okay? For instance, debt on a car, a vehicle, or credit card debt for stuff that you're just going to use, or vacations, things like that. credit card debt, vehicle debt, debt that is not something that you could acquire something with that debt and then turn around and pay that thing and sell that thing and pay all that debt off. Okay, there's that kind of debt. If you can't do that with your debt, then it's not that one is good and one is bad. It's that all of it's bad, but some is worse. Okay, does that make sense? All is bad, some is worse. Some debt is worse than other kinds of debt. And so, what level of debt are you comfortable with? Kevin says land of the loan and home of the interest rate. Pretty good, Kevin. That's wow. You should probably trademark that expression. That might actually end up being something that will go down in history. So yeah, there's different kinds of debt, right? So you have I don't know that there's any good debt. And by the way, if you guys disagree, if you can tell me what good debt looks like, please drop it in the comments. I'm open to being corrected on this. But I would say there's no such thing as good debt, but there are some kinds of debt that are better than other kinds. Okay. An example of that would be good debt would be you borrow money to buy an asset that is going to be worth at least the amount that you borrowed to get it, and or potentially it's worth more. So if you can make a profit by leveraging debt, then that might not be as bad debt as just regular consumer debt, right? So, if you want to really qualify it or quantify it, it's like investor debt versus consumer debt. Okay. Now, Kevin says good debt is when people owe me with interest. There you go. And so there is a good debt. I stand corrected. Kevin actually has it figured out. So, by the way, see Kevin Smith, follow him for financial advice. Kevin's a great guy. If you guys don't know Kevin, get to know him. He's a fellow Idahoan out here in eastern Idaho. I'm in southern Idaho, but know Kevin, working with him on some projects, and somebody that you should definitely get to know if you're looking for properties and just want to learn a little about real estate, borrowing, lending. Super good guy. But Kevin, if there's such a thing as good debt, then we have to kind of grapple with the fact that there's a reason why people actually borrow money, and that is well, there's a lot of reasons why, right? But there's a reason why that makes sense to some people, and that is to borrow money in order to acquire something that has greater value than the money that you're borrowing. Okay. This is called speculation, right? When we're in the flipping business, whether you're in the home building business, building spec homes. In fact, they call it spec homes. Heard somebody say he's not a custom builder, he's a spec builder. Okay, that stands for speculative build. So we did this in Alaska for many, many years. I've done it in Oregon, in Idaho, worked with many different builders, investors. My father and our company in Alaska for years, we were building spec homes as quickly as we could get them built. They were selling. Okay, that was all pre-2008. But from about 2004 to 2008, man, we were just building, and as quickly as we could build them, they would sell. And we had a really great location for the properties we built, the houses we built. But those were speculative. In other words, we were fronting the money, or we were working the deal to get the land. We were going out and borrowing the money it would took to build the house, pay the guys, pay for the lumber, right? Pay for the lot, pay for all the different things involved with building and creating this structure. But then it was speculative, but it was also the kind of speculation that you could look at the market, you could look at the track record, you could look at the history, you could look at the demand, and you could say, if we can buy this lot and build this structure, this 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house on this lot, and we can do it all in for $175,000. This is 20 years ago now, for $175,000, $225,000, whatever it was. But we know that we can turn around and sell these things all day long for $300,000 to $350,000, $385,000. I don't remember what the highest price point that we sold those houses for, but we had about 4 different floor plans, and we would just build these things over and over and over again. Change up the front, a little bit, but sometimes change the floor plan out a little bit. But for the most part, we were just building these things, and we knew If we could get it built, it would sell in this price range. Well, it was good. It was speculative, but it was the kind of speculation that you look at it and go, "Hey, we sold these things." And at one point, we found out years later that we were the second largest home builder in Fairbanks, Alaska, for at least one summer. Which, by the way, your building season up there is very, very short. So, wasn't exactly a mark of great significance. But the point is, we were really building a lot of properties. Those are spec homes. That's all speculative. So when you're investing, whether it's flipping, whether it's building specs, even from a lender's point of view, it's all speculative, right? It's just, is it calculated risk or is it foolish risk? Is it, uncollateralized risk? So when you think about debt, you want to look at debt in terms of two different types of debt. There's the kind of debt that is just foolish. It's bad debt. You shouldn't do it. This is credit card debt. This is, I would even say, unless you have a very highly sought after type of, work that you're going to do and you're going to be producing, and you can walk out of college with the degree in hand that's going to get you into a very, very high revenue type of job. I would even say that college debt is probably not really very smart. Okay. And I think there's probably a lot of people that can testify to that. Maybe somebody on the call or that watching today has a degree in something that you went in debt for, but that something has not actually paid for itself in any way, shape, or form. Now, there are the advantages of, hey, he's got a college education. She has a degree. Okay, we get that. But think about what that kind of money, what that kind of debt that people sign themselves up for. By the way, it's crazy how much it costs to go to college, right? So people are going to college, they're getting these degrees, and is it really actually that debt that they're incurring or taking on, saying yes to, is it actually the kind of debt that can produce the kind of income that makes it worth it? I would argue that it's a lot of the degrees that people are getting at college these days, and the money they're going into debt for is not worth it. So Tess says she 100% agrees. Tess, thank you for that agreement there. Obviously, I personally don't have student debt, but I also am a college dropout. So what are you going to say? I paid for my school, Lynn Benton Community College, for a full year, and then I started my second year, and I said I don't want to do this anymore. So, and I'm actually kind of glad I did. I looked back for a couple of times and said, man, it would have been nice to have a construction engineering management degree. It'd be nice to have a construction degree of some sort, engineering, whatever. But the thing is I've looked at that and I've thought, because I didn't have that degree, I didn't go into a particular line of work. Okay. Because I didn't go into that particular line of work, I went into a different line of work. Because I went into that different type of work that I would have if I was continued in that direction, I went in this line of work, and it actually changed my life to the point where I now am ministry focused and entrepreneurial, and I love being an entrepreneur, although some days it's really tough. Amen. Can I get a witness to all my fellow entrepreneurs out there? But I would much rather be an entrepreneur that's taking the risk, carving out, an opportunity for myself, for my family's future. I'd much rather be the person that's doing that as opposed to being indebted to institutions for a piece of paper so I could go do a job that I hate. That's kind of a blunt way of putting it, right? So many people are stuck in their career. They're stuck in their jobs because they got a degree, and that degree, they paid a lot of money for it, or they owe a lot of money for it. And that degree pretty much regulates what they do for the rest of their working life. And boy, I mean, your job, your income, your occupation, that's like a huge chunk of your life, right? You spend a lot of hours of your week doing that thing. And I personally would just much rather be the entrepreneur, the person that is a business owner that says, I know that this is risky, and I know that there's uncertainty, but I'd rather have the uncertainty that I have than the perceived certainty that a lot of people with careers think that they have. Notice that. I don't think that having a career job or a retirement account or a 401k or having some position at a company, I don't think any of that guarantees anything. And a lot of people might argue that, but I would just say this, don't forget about Enron. Don't forget about the different Ponzi schemes out there. Don't forget about the money that went into the stock market. And then right about the time you needed it, all of a sudden the stock market changed and now it was a dip and you had to stay working for several more years. These types of situations happen. So somebody would argue that it's risky to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner. And boy, I don't know if I could just live like that. Well, I don't know how you live the way you do. Okay, I'm not trying to get, pushy or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's crazy the things that people will obligate themselves to and indebt themselves to, right? They are indebted to paying off this degree, and this degree does not actually earn them enough money to do so in a reasonable manner. And so they just pay this thing, kind of like these 50-year mortgages that some people are going to sign up for. Yeah, it seems to make sense on the front end, but is it really the best move? Probably not for a lot of people. Now, there's a small amount of people that it's going to be good for them because it gives those people a chance to actually get into homeownership. My kids are probably going to be part of that number, but they will do it with careful guidance and coaching. And we're going to walk them through it and show, hey, as quickly as you can, get out of that structure and into this different kind. So, yeah, Tess says, this is a great example. Tess says, I was furloughed during the pandemic. Yeah, if you were in the pandemic and for whatever reason, pandemic, plandemic, however you want to say it, there's a lot of people that lost their jobs and got completely derailed financially because suddenly you weren't essential, right? Your job wasn't considered needed in the marketplace. And so how is that for security, right? What's crazy about that, as a construction guy and a real estate guy, I was considered essential. And so I'm out there, driving around doing work every day, just like I always did, like as if nothing in the world was happening because I was in the industry that had there was a demand for it, right? So I'm not saying that, we're not talking about industry specific. I'm just saying, and by the way, I'll just say this publicly for the record, I would have gone to work anyway. Okay. No one's going to tell me that I have to stay home and let the government take care of my family. That's not how we do things here. And to that matter, some of the folks that are whining about, not getting paid by the government right now, well, this might be a time to consider going out and providing for yourself if you have the ability to do so. Notice that caveat. I know that there's people that are dependent and there are people that need to have care. But there are a lot of people that are whining and complaining, or maybe whining and complaining on behalf of other people. And it's like, well, if it's really that big of a deal, then just go out and find some way to make a living. And I know that rubs people the wrong way. And I know that a lot of people don't really appreciate that type of mindset or mentality. And I'm not coming at this from a political point of view. I'm coming at this from a point of view of there's a verse of scripture that says, if a man doesn't work, neither should he eat. Okay, so get out and do some form of work to justify being able to go put food in your face. Boy, we're getting kind of serious today, aren't we? I'm having a good time. I don't know if you guys are or not, but I'm having a great time. And the reality is, a lot of the stuff that people that are into real estate and entrepreneurship and different trade type of jobs, like we understand maybe more than others, maybe not, but we tend to understand that there's this direct relationship between the effort that you put in and the return that you get. One of my business coaches, Myron Golden, says like this. He says, the amount of money that you make is directly related to the amount of value you bring to the marketplace in whatever way, shape, or form that is. So I don't personally believe in government shutdowns. I don't believe in government handouts, except to a very, very limited degree and for a very, very qualified type of person. And I do mean qualified. And I believe that for the right type of people and for the people that are qualified, we should give them as much help as we possibly can. I say we, I'm talking about even the government. But for everyone else, hey, if you can get out of bed, if you can, even if you have trouble with that part, maybe you can't get out of the house, but you can sit at home. We have this thing called the internet. That's how you're hearing me right now. Get out there and figure some things out, right? and don't be a whiner, don't be a consumer, be a doer, be a producer, and be someone that makes a difference, starting in your own life first, right? And then start seeing, as soon as you kind of get yourself stabilized, start looking to help other people as much as you can. And I think that you'll be much happier for it, as opposed to sitting around and waiting for someone to come and fix things for you. The old expression is, nobody's coming to save you. Now, Jesus saves, right? He'll save your soul, but I heard somebody say, Jesus will pay for your sins, but you will pay your bills. Think about that. You have an obligation. I have an obligation. And to that point, kind of coming back around full circle, we ought to be very careful about who we indebt ourselves to and how much debt we take on. Speaking of 50-year mortgages, because of the fact that when you sign on the dotted line, that is a contractual agreement. And to step away from those obligations and to not fulfill those obligations that you committed to, that is a mark on your character, not just a mark on a contract. Okay, so I would say be careful about the deals you get into. Be careful about how much debt you obligate yourself to, but also don't be so debt adverse. Don't be so risk adverse and like I'm totally intolerant of debt that you miss opportunities to actually get ahead a little bit and position yourself. So that's just my spiel. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Is that something that you agree with? Do you can I get an amen? What about an oh me? Like, oh my. I'm totally fine with, you guys sharing your opinion. Please let me see it in the comments. I'd love to see more comments in here. I don't see any questions. I'm looking, kind of getting up to here toward about a quarter of the hour. So I might just jump off a little early today if I don't see any questions, feedback, comments. If you guys have something you're working on and you'd like to get some help, fire away. Please feel free. Okay, we got an amen, a thumbs up from Tess. Thank you, Tess. Cool. I kind of figured that with you, Tess. So, I just think that we're living in such a day and age in which it's become culturally normalized to gripe and moan, and it's been culturally normalized to expect other people to just help you get by in life. And it's also been kind of culturally normalized. And this is the part that I think people should really take a step back. It doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum or the aisle you're on. Take a step back and say, do we really want the government to be where we look for our answers? I would much rather look internally. I'd much rather look around me. I'd much rather look above me than to be looking to the government to try to fix the problems that are, we all have problems, right? Life is just kind of that way. So Kevin said Bueller. All right. Tess, we got a smiley face. Okay. Maribel says, looking forward to the November 20 November PDXREI event. Okay, guys, thank you so much, Maribel. I appreciate you saying that. If you haven't seen it already, then please go to the PDXREI group. Pull up the group, go to the top of the page, go to events, or go to where it's like featured posts. And in there, you're going to see that I actually created an event for the upcoming Thanksgiving PDX. I have something I'm going to talk about. It's gifts of gratitude. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving month. We're going to be doing this, getting together the week before Thanksgiving. So plenty of time to come out, enjoy some, just some networking. I'm going to be kind of giving a special presentation on gifts of gratitude and talking about how much gratitude will serve you in your life and in your business, in your family. So I really think that that you guys are going to enjoy getting to come out. We'll have some, what do we call it? Holiday themed foods is what we're shooting for. I wish Tess was in Portland sometimes for these things, because I'd love to have some of her honey baked ham at our meetups. But by the way, guys, if you are in the Portland area or you know someone who is, send them a message, send them the link, make sure you get in and sign up. I see about 20 something people that are clicked as interested in going, but not actually committed to going. So if you are planning on going, it's very, very important this month, especially, to let us know that you're coming. so that I can plan on, I know how much food to plan on bringing. So looking forward to doing that with you guys in Portland. Andy just came in, says here, a friend of mine had MS, was in a wheelchair, unable to move his hands, but was able to help other disabled people in other countries, but by the use of his phones. There's no excuses for not working. Oh man, Andy, thank you so much. There's so many examples of this. How many of you guys have seen that? Some reel of somebody shoveling gravel and pitching it into a wheelbarrow, a guy with no arms, right? And he's shoveling or one arm, and he's like able to push it down and then flip it up over his shoulder. It's just crazy. People, we have it so good here, okay? And so I want to just kind of start laying some groundwork. Let's get out of complaining mode and let's get into gratitude attitude, because it's very, very important that you maintain this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this next week. But in the meanwhile, thank you, Maribel, for just posting that. We have the PDX REI group meetup coming up. Make sure you get registered. Make sure you let us know you're coming. And if you have any other questions, feel free to post it here in the comments. I always go back and I read the comments after the show. If you guys are able to come out, I would love to see you, love to meet you in person. So please plan on that. Bring a friend. Just make sure that you and your friend both registered. Hit the going button on the events tab so we know how many to plan for. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to check the chat, the comments one more time. Don't see anything else. Okay, I'm going to jump off here. If you guys have any questions, like I said, you know where to reach me. Feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the PDX REI group meetup. And keep in mind that it just pays to be grateful. We're going to talk about how does it pay to be grateful, the gifts of gratitude coming into this holiday season. So, one more. Andy says, I'm looking for an underwriter and other folks to build a team. Andy's got some ideas about some stuff. You guys reach out to him if you want to be part of his team. Specifically if you have skills in underwriting. But guys, God bless. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Take care.